Hi, this is Tom Oding at the University of Iowa, and together with Brian Little and Dr. Theolakis, we're going to show some cases using the Malyugin ring where we had some trouble, and we hope that sharing these cases with you will speed your learning curve. The ring can interfere with instruments using the eye. Here you can see the ring is getting in the way of the phaco needle. However, viscoelastic may help make this less of a problem. Here you can see that during chopping, the chopping instrument has displaced one of the eyelets. The eyelet had to be repositioned using a Kugeln hook with care not to catch the anterior capsulotomy. Here a ring is being placed after the pupil began to come down following the capsulorhexis. 3 of the 4 eyelets were easily placed. Kugeln hook pushes the eyelet out of the way so that the inserter can be removed, and the final eyelet is placed with a Kugeln hook, again with care not to catch the capsulorhexis. However, as the case continues, the pupil begins to get bigger, and this 6 millimeter ring begins to float up into the anterior chamber. The larger 7 millimeter ring may have been beneficial in this case. Eventually the ring was removed because it just got in the way. Retraction is the most tricky part of the use of the Malyugin ring. First you want to remove the eyelet which is across from the incision, and then the subincisional eyelet. You do not want to completely retract this device when you remove it. Funny things happen when you do it. Here you can see the ring actually broke. Fortunately, the glue is removed from the eye. Here there's not enough viscoelastic in the eye, and we're making the mistake of removing the subincisional eyelet first instead of the eyelet which is across from the incision. Here when we retract the ring, we make the mistake again of completely retracting it. And funny things happen when you completely retract these rings. The ring flipped underneath the inserter and is catching on decimase as we try to remove the ring from the eye. Eventually we figure out what's going on, turn it on its side, and we remove the ring. Here as we try to retract this ring, we get the hook in a funny position such that it's in the middle of the eyelet and not completely over the eyelet. And as a result, the ring twists wildly and catches the iris and gets stuck such that we can't completely remove the ring without pulling the iris with it. And this is because we didn't get the hook completely over the eyelet when we started this retraction. We eventually were able to cut this ring in half using Vanna scissors and get the entire ring out of the eye. The iris can still prolapse. Unlike when we used iris hooks and kept them into the very last minute, we have to remove the ring before we finally do the irrigation aspiration of the viscoelastic. And as a result, you can get iris prolapse during this phase. Here you can see we're able to get this iris back in this very floppy Flomex case. Here's a case where we made our wound too short, and this will haunt us later when we place the 6 millimeter Malyugin ring and still have iris prolapse despite the ring. Viscoelastic doesn't do enough, and we eventually place iris hooks under the incision in order to complete this case safely. Sometimes the ring is just too small, particularly the 6 millimeter ring. But here's a case where no matter how big the ring was, we probably would have to remove it because we have to convert to extracapsular surgery with a very loose lens that you can see jiggling freely behind the ring. First the eyelet across from the incision and then the subincisional eyelet. The hook is placed completely over both aspects of the eyelet, and it's pulled in just partially and then pulled out. No reason to completely retract it. And here you can see through that very large incision the conversion to extra cap is complete. And yes, there is some vitreous coming along, which is cut with Westcott scissors. A nice lens position in the sulcus was achieved. Here Dr. Little is placing a Rayner centerflex lens into the capsular bag with a 6 mm Malyugin ring in place. When this IOL is placed into the bag, you can see it catches funny and it becomes entangled in the 6 mm Malyugin ring. Dr. Little has quite a puzzle to solve and eventually has to cut the ring into 2 pieces. He ends up making another incision superiorly in order to cut the ring in half. You can see how tough the ring is. But it successfully is removed. Here Dr. Little shows placing the same IOL through the 7 mm Malyugin ring, and you can see it easily fits through this larger ring with no difficulty. The 7 mm ring is a nice device because it solves some of the problems that we talked about earlier. Here you can see the placement of the 7 mm ring, and 2 of the 3 eyelets are initially placed. The ring is pushed over a bit in order to remove the inserter. The subincisional eyelet is placed, and then one of the lateral eyelets that wasn't yet placed is all done with a Kugelin hook. The retraction is done by first taking the eyelet across from the incision, pushing it over to the angle as much as you can, and then teeing up the subincisional eyelet a little to the side. The hook goes completely over the eyelet, captures the eyelet, centers, and then do not completely retract and just pull it out. In summary, we feel that the Malyugin ring is a very useful device. We hope that by sharing some of the problems that we've had during our early experience, that we can speed your learning curve along so that you don't make the same mistakes that we did. Thank you very much.